Whether it yielded significant results or not, I'm not quite sure. I see two possibilities. Either I overestimated the opponent's skill, or perhaps the opponent had no intention of continuing the fight. The latter probability is overwhelmingly high. I probably didn't deliver any meaningful blows. Most likely, the opponent was more conscious of their engagement with you, Guiyu. Even after taking that hit without significant damage, it's hard to say whether they would hesitate to engage with me. You. What is the meaning of this? You're on the same side, aren't you? Yet, why out of the blue? Don't worry about it. I merely did what needed to be done. He can go back just the way he was. There are no longer any elements that pose a threat to you now. From here on, it's the business of yokai that humans shouldn't interfere with. This one is a dark god like me. Perhaps it feels different because of the difference in species. It's a bit different from what I was expecting. This side looks more appetizing, though. But no, Chien. Even if we don't know about the future, for now, let's get along amicably. It's not bad that you and Tao may devour each other, but if such a thing is bound to happen, I hope both of you grow a bit more and do it properly. What the, why are you still alive? What do you mean by that? That's too much. I shouldn't die that easily. It was a bit precarious for a moment, though. That little one perfectly understands my power. The roots I use is a spell that channels the impact below the feet. In other words, if the ground is unstable, the effect under the feet won't be fully realized. So, before extracting the water from the ground, I manipulated the terrain as much as possible to ensure the ground couldn't fully absorb the impact I released. I'll keep that in mind when I devour him later. Admirable, isn't it? Facing off against a creature that even humans couldn't consume, more splendidly than the Zichis from 1,000 years ago. If it were up to me. I wanted to savor him thoroughly, down to the very last bit. I don't quite understand, but I can sense that it's a different feeling from my desire to eat. But then, you could have just fought as is. Though my desire to do so is as strong as a chimney, it seems like the heavens are advising against it. Huh. There wasn't any forecast for rain today, it seems like it's going to pour quite refreshingly at this rate. Well, that's the reason. Black Tortoise and Shiji. Even if I don't confront both of them simultaneously, I don't have the confidence to emerge unscathed from a battle with them on a rainy day either. Even if I manage to win, it's not just me. Given Chien's current state, just getting involved in a fight could be fatal, don't you think? Right? And on top of that, there's Tao. Perhaps those kids had a similar thought as me. Even if it's just themselves, there's an opponent they shouldn't get involved with. Not being able to take Saiwu with me is one thing, it's regrettable in many ways, but there's nothing I can do about it. There's plenty of time ahead of us. Where is this? My body, besides the pain, it won't even move. I anticipated it to some extent, but I didn't expect the muscle pain to be this intense. Yes, I received the call. Ah. Yes, Chief. Yeah. Yes, yes. I'm fine. It's not that severe, thank you for your concern. I took a half-day off in the afternoon because I wasn't feeling well. The company department head was quite worried. Is your body okay, There shouldn't be any major issues, but it might be a bit uncomfortable for a while. It seems like you've pushed yourself too hard. That mask, it's a spell that was awakened not too long ago, right? I'm not exactly sure, but it's not something meant to be sustained for such a long time. Probably a spell for momentary power increase. That's why, throughout the maintenance, there has been a constant expenditure of magical power and physical stamina at maximum output. So, unavoidably, I had to perform a forced termination. Still, you were suddenly taken aback, right? I thought it was an urgent situation for a moment. I apologize. Even so, my youngest sister, Yusum, tried to visit me once for work. I'm not inherently a malevolent being, but I must acknowledge the mistakes that cannot be fully excused by immaturity. As a representative of our kind residing in the human realm, I formally apologize. I don't think you need to go as far as an apology. I believe the matter has been settled among the parties involved. More importantly, what happened to that yokai in the end? Clearly, it introduced itself as a goblin and its magic was similar to mine. There should only be one goblin, unmistakably me. I thought the same way as you did. Unfortunately, I've come to realize that judgment was incorrect. Along with my apologies, I believe it's necessary to explain the circumstances to you. His name is Baihyung. He was the goblin prince that existed on this peninsula 1,000 years ago. And perhaps, he might be an ancestor of yours. Rain falls just as ordinary in the human realm. Still, humans are surprisingly resilient. I thought everyone would be stuck indoors without moving in this kind of weather. What, exactly do you think of humans? Anyway, I truly live today because of you. Yesterday, dealing with the department store personnel and others in different places, with dozens of witnesses, I was wondering how I could handle it alone. If you hadn't helped, the situation might have spiraled out of control. Save your thanks for Choi Sai-woo rather than me. It wasn't much trouble for me, and I chose to help you instead of dealing with that guy. Yeah, it's embarrassing. I said I would help Sai-woo a lot, but instead, I'm just causing trouble. We haven't even had a proper conversation, not even a, "Can I have your number?" and suddenly asking about availability was a bit. But the boss is truly impenetrable. Well, considering how many people must have asked him such things. What is it? Most of the customers here are actually humans coming to see Appa. Ironically, he doesn't seem to grasp that himself. Sorry, we're closing early today. Oh, it's you guys. Ah, you beat me to it. It's still a long way until dinner. Is there a reason for closing the shop early? It wasn't even a day to be open in the first place. We just had a few customers to serve, including you. What will you drink? I'll have the usual. Even if you say that, I don't know, order exactly as it's written on the menu. Isn't that too much? I've had several iced coffees here. Seowa, what would you like to drink? There are teas you're familiar with, but if it's okay, I can recommend. What's with that look? Do you want to die? Calm down, Seowa. Whoever it is, they're still a kid, aren't they? I mean, that doesn't excuse it, but here, I know. This isn't the yokai realm. It's the human realm. And the little one, whoever it is, shouldn't just barge in like this. Huh? Weren't you acquainted before? In a den where there's no tiger, a raccoon acts like one. They said rootless creatures were running wild where the tiger disappeared. It's precisely a single fox causing the disturbance. Ha! Even among yokai, the concept of natural enemies exists. And it mostly involves creatures rooted in the animal kingdom. The antagonistic relationships among the original animals continue to influence yokai even after they transform. Of course, the power dynamics among the original creatures might not exactly align after they become yokai, but the enmity remains distinct, influencing the relationships of descendants who inherit the blood. If this atmosphere is driven by our instincts, could it be that this little one's true identity is, "Don't worry, Salmi. Even if they make the first move from over there, I have no intention of leaping around like an indiscriminate beast. Should I summon the judge now? I'm ready to do it right away. Since I came to the human realm, I haven't had a proper meal. I don't mind. I'm not particularly interested in fox meat. Dispatching you won't take much time, no, young master. Truly, I cannot take my eyes off you even for a moment. The judge gave you a rare opportunity to come to the human realm. If you get involved in a fight on the first day, it will affect your reputation, young master. But Woliang, this fox looked at me first. The judge said they would call him too. But even then, we shouldn't fight. Young master, really. In the world of affairs, fairness and procedure alone is not enough. The young one you're arguing with is currently the most influential member of a tribe in the Korean peninsula. You, who don't even belong to a tribe, are not in a position to argue. Regardless of who is responsible for the fight, ultimately, it will be considered your fault, young master. The young lady probably knows that well too. Among all the begging for life I've heard so far, that's probably the most pathetic. Well, whatever, I'll let it slide. Crushing the seed of a tiger in its last moments with my own hands feels somewhat uncomfortable. Fortunately, it was more of a provocation than a threat. Considering Sealwa's personality, this was probably the only correct response. If he had recklessly attacked or shamelessly groveled, Sealwa would have crushed him without mercy. By the way, it's quite an anachronistic combination. Not just the presumed dry tiger, but also the Changwi that's been nurturing the young tiger for who knows how many centuries. If you plan to go through several more moltings in the future, you better get your act together. Don't listen to her. I don't know why that thing is taking care of you, but to a little one like you, she's an absurd spirit. So, what's the point of calling me and Salmi with these? Just tell us what you're here for. It's a tea house, and we don't like the smell of burnt wood in our nostrils. We're curious, too. After last night's hunt, we were told to keep quiet for a while. Could something have happened? As you know, to suppress this commotion, a promising elder issued a temporary license. Even yokai without qualifications that come to the human realm can take part in expelling intruders if they have enough strength. But the situation has changed a bit. Wanhui, Sealwa, Woliang. Except for you three, temporary license holders received an order to return to the yokai realm due to a lack of skill. First, the details. What about Choi Saiwoo? Saiwoo? I don't know what's going on, but this seems to be a problem that needs to be applied differently to Saiwoo. They didn't send Saiwoo alone to the yokai realm, did they? If they did, that's really crossing the line. I agree too. He may not be weak enough to get beaten up anywhere, but, you know, strength isn't everything, right? When it comes to discussing yokai strength, he's still incomplete. The core being human, no matter how skilled in fighting, is just a big prey. If he is left alone in the yokai realm, he would only survive a few days before being hunted and devoured. I'm out of here. I'll tell the elder that I return to the yokai realm. As originally promised, I'll train Choi Saiwoo for a month and then face judgment. He's a resilient one, so it's okay. Whatever you decide to do is up to you, but listen to the end. Choi Saiwoo is still here. And whether to send him back to the yokai realm or keep him in the human realm has not been decided yet. Also, that decision is closely related to your new goal. Because you have to protect Choi Saiwoo from humans. That creature is a Shieji, you say. On the surface, it looked almost identical to me. No, if it claims to be an ancestor from the beginning, how old is that yokai exactly? If that goblin is what I think is a Baihyang, it would be a yokai from about 1500 years ago. Yes. When it first appeared, it introduced itself as a Baihyang. 1500 years, it can live that long. No, in this case, the story is a bit different. While it's true that yokai have longer lifespans than humans, on average, it's only around 500 years. What allows for a lifespan beyond that is precisely yokai power. When a yokai accumulates a certain level of yokai power, it can extend its lifespan and maintain youth and prime for up to 1,000 years. Up to 1,000 years. But the creature we encountered, that's correct. At 1500 years old, it maintains an appearance that doesn't seem to approach old age. Not only that, even as a seasoned killer, using all my power, I couldn't land a blow, and it allowed me to leave the scene. To think there might be a yokai that could match your skill among the young ones in this land, it seems that Sealwa and Guiyu are the best we have. Even if it claims to be a goblin, with an aged and withered body, he wouldn't have been able to face you. He would have been an esoteric tale to be shared with Choi Saiwu if time allowed. The last time goblins completely hid their traces was 666 years ago, just after the most recent Great War. Over 1,000 years ago, the goblins divided into two factions and opposed each other. The Goblin King of that era and his faction were defeated, hiding their traces from the world. However, the victorious side also suffered severe blows, gradually declining until there was only one remaining 666 years ago. He was the last goblin, Bacon, and he survived until the latter half of 666 years ago. But even Bacon succumbed to injuries sustained in the Great War, and the goblins were judged to be in an extinct state from that point onward. So, initially, I thought you were the hidden descendant of Bacon. When Bacon took his last breath, even if he were to become a soul goblin, it would have been over 100 years after he had become a goblin. Even though there is no direct clue to identify your ancestor, if we consider the short lifespan of Banyo, it somewhat aligns with being a descendant left behind 666 years ago by Bacon. However, one of the notorious family members known to have died 1,000 years ago is Baihyang. The fact that Baihyang has reappeared now, still maintaining an appearance and skills without aging at all. If Baihyang and other goblins were alive back then, it could imply that they might be my ancestors. Whether the goblin you encountered is truly Baihyang and if so, how he has maintained his youth are secondary issues. What's important is that a goblin with such formidable power has been hiding somewhere with some purpose. And regardless of whose blood is mixed in, why was your lineage and your family's bloodline discovered only now? Answer my questions as truthfully as possible from now on. Your parents, especially your mother, is she truly an ordinary human? Son. Even though I didn't know the reason, because I got the sense that it was an incredibly important request to Mom. I never used violence against anything after that incident. That is, until I became a monster. Father was a Cirium athlete. He met Mother at 24, married her, and then immediately had me. And I heard he died of an incurable disease shortly after my birth. Seeing how overwhelming his record was as an athlete, I think I may have inherited the goblin blood from him. And Mother has a job where she appraises old artworks, ceramics, paintings, and more. She even occasionally brokers transactions as well, and she's just a normal person, who has absolutely nothing to do with this world. If that isn't the case, then how could I have not known anything about being a monster until a few days ago? Maybe she did not tell you on purpose. I know how this may sound to you, saying something like this all of a sudden. However, if you compare yourself to just a few days ago, your very existence has completely changed from where it was, just like night and day. A few days ago, even when I had met you for the first time, you were someone who was a whole lot closer to being human than a monster. That time, I just simply told the only goblin of their duty to participate in the festival. I had no expectations regarding your growth. But, I wasn't that useless of a person as you thought I'd be. It isn't that pleasant of a story, is it? It's like you said. The growth I've seen over these past few days has been phenomenal. Because even considering Goblin's talent, which is specialized in combat, you were clearly at a level that fell beyond the standard. That's why I had no choice but to doubt your mother. Whether you truly are just a typical half-monster. And whether you were just a tool that was planned and raised for the possibility of Bai Hyong getting involved in the festival to begin with. What kind of absurd nonsense. Of course, the likelihood of that will be infinitely low. Even if Bai Hyong has something to do with you in some way, I know that you're innocent at the very least, Choi Saiwoo. Then why? The problem is that it is only us who thinks that way. To be precise. Humans who are aware of the existence of monsters, the shaman folk, see you as a dangerous person who is related to Bai Hyong. Just today, there have been several cases of mass disappearances across the country. With the high-rise apartment complexes in the greater Seoul area around noon, most of the residents have been confirmed missing by the police. Last night, there was news that some residents didn't return home and that it was reported to the police. Two similar incidents occurred elsewhere in Seoul, as well as an incident in Incheon and Busan each. As this news was reported on and published as articles, the public opinion online is literally in a state of mass confusion currently. In the case of the subjugation last night, this was something our side had prepared for 2 weeks along with the shaman folk. Coordinating and sharing the regions where the other side was entrusted with, as well as the members each side would be dispatching. And the shaman folk asked for the leaders of this country to cooperate with our operation. That if they could just condone just one night of disturbance, and cooperate with the subsequent cover-up, that we try to wipe out most of the monsters in this country. But in one day, no, before a day had passed, this sort of stuff arose. Not just last night, but interest over the surge in disappearances over the past month is spreading like wildfire. For us, it is a bit of a headache. But from the shaman folk's stance, as they are in a position where they have to use energy to make up for their incompetence. What you did today, although it is fortunate that no human was swept up in this mess and killed, it seems the aftermath was witnessed by quite a few humans. Actually, I'm also responsible in that respect. Using that as an excuse, the shaman folk are requesting for the new recruit. They probably intend on punishing the monster who went on a rampage in the middle of the day. Well, it is my fault that I moved alone without receiving permission. While that is true, that is just something that monsters have to deal with amongst themselves. While it is true that you moved against the judge's orders, the opponent was a monster who has killed countless humans and made a mess of the law. It's not like you killed any humans by using your powers. And it's not like your monster form wasn't directly revealed to average humans either. Even if you have to receive some sort of punishment, that is only to my discretion, as the judge of monsters. It isn't even a punish them in any way, but hand over the recruit, a clear violation of my authority. Although they're trying to forcefully have you handed over, don't worry too much about it. As I will definitely protect you and your mother. My mom. That's right, as it appears that the shaman folk are aware of Bai Hyong's existence. It appears that they are almost certain that your family is related to Bai Hyong. If it's the woman who has raised you until now, the shaman folk may have already been considering her as a criminal. I understand how you feel. But I cannot let you freely go to her yourself. As that is exactly what the shaman folk are playing at. I have already sent someone to protect your mother. So don't worry, and it'd be best that you stay here, under Yuyong's protection. It'll be a good idea to do as the judge says, Saiwoo. Given your current physical condition, even if there is a conflict with the shaman folk, you don't know what will happen. So, it's all my fault. Forget receiving permission, I went there without even sending notice, and even made this matter balloon. This is all my fault, and I have already prepared myself to be punished because of it. However, my dumb self didn't think that far. I didn't even consider that others besides myself would have to bear responsibility for what I did. What's more, it's that I never thought it'd be my mom. I'm sorry. I know I'm a nuisance, but it can't be helped. If something happens to my mom because of something that I did, then I won't ever be able to forgive myself. The wonder cloth with just his physical strength. When I confirm with my own eyes that my mom's safe, I will return then, and receive whatever punishment is given. I'm really sorry. Why is it that you just stood still and watched? Don't say anything along the lines about being so pathetic that you couldn't respond at all. Oh. There wasn't any water nearby that I could use. And if I just burst a fire hydrant just to do this and cause another disturbance? When the current weather outside is like that? Ack. With such a pushover personality, that is why you're said to be lagging behind even your sister, who lacks in talent. Then again, I don't know why, but it is the nature of your clan that the softer you are, the more of a real deal that you are. Isn't it that even you weren't being completely mean to Saiwu, sir? Although I was aware that Saiwu's potential was beyond my expectations, I know that the wonder cloth isn't just a monster art that is that easy to tear or to be broken simply because it was torn either. Humph. No matter the manner in which Choi Saiwu moves, our current relationship with the shaman folk will not change much. What's more, the reason why he's in this sort of position is largely my responsibility for not figuring out the whole situation properly. And above all, I'm not cruel enough to turn a blind eye to the tears a child sheds for his mother. He isn't picking up or reading my texts either. Where on earth did he go? Who is it? For what reason? Don't move an inch and just stand still. Well, Solmi was right. I guess I must have underestimated humans. When I knew just how freaking annoyingly they'd act. To the point I want to kill them. Ma'am. I don't know just how many have crawled in, but it doesn't matter. It's all over if I just stomp on them as I see them. If you don't want to die, then first off, kneel. First, kneel. Unique martial art violet low note technique. Primarily infuses chi into voice, causing confusion in the senses and consciousness of the listener. He didn't immediately swing his sword. Was it because of concern that Choi Saiwa's mother might get involved? You can come in, it's nothing special. Is that Saiwa's mother? Thank goodness, I was wondering, but it seems we weren't too late. Really? Considering the level of that, even if we were late, it wouldn't have been such a big deal. Again, I said we should avoid conflicts as much as possible. Yes, so in the end, we didn't fight and secured her safely. It wasn't intentional though. You said it would be unreasonable to interfere with human beings, didn't you? How did you manage to handle it so well and escape? This is, since they were born after the last competition, it's the first time they're feeling the sensation that's currently overwhelming them. It seems the idea of avoiding conflict was only on our side. However, in the surroundings they found themselves in, both yokais intuitively understood what was happening. Barrier. Moreover, It's not something that can be hastily constructed on the spot, it requires improvisation. Those guys, they came prepared from the start. Wait a minute, then what's the point of sending someone ahead? So he managed to release the violet low note technique with his own chi. I have no intention of fighting you. The person you are currently holding is my friend's mother. I came here to prevent her from being taken away. If your purpose is the same, then I am willing to cooperate. You are a familiar face. Are you really Choi Siwoo's friend? Yeah, just the other night, that person protected Siwoo while I wasn't around. Time is running out. You might have noticed, but there's a barrier operating around the apartment complex. As long as that's active, you won't be able to leave. Luckily, there's still a way to penetrate the barrier from inside, aside from the fact that you're talking about being able to walk out the door. Why are you acting so cocky as if it's obvious? What? I understand that you're Choi Siwoo's friend, but weren't you a shaman before? The Siwoo from the other day and today are different beings. That would be even more so for you shamans. Are you really willing to abandon the foundation you're in just for friendship? You're not foolish enough to believe that blindly. Though it may sound a bit cold, what Siwoo says is not wrong. If this is a tactic to lower our guard and trap us, engaging in conversation itself is risky. I knew it would be like this. Including the blood flowing through the meridians. I temporarily paralyzed the chi flow used for martial arts. Right now, I'm no different from an ordinary human. If I activate my chi again, I could directly see everything in your mind. Do you understand what that means? It might not just end with me peering into your mind casually. I could manipulate you like my puppet until you die. I can't say it doesn't matter, but, still, at least it might help Auntie to escape. If that's possible, it doesn't matter. Why go to such lengths? What exactly is your relationship with Choi Siwoo? I just said it all a moment ago. I'm his friend. That's all there is. Whether you're naive or Siwoo's influence is good, it could be both. Are you okay? What's there to be okay about? Let's hear it. Let's see how impressive the skills of shamans really are. The pain that resonates throughout the body, forgotten amidst hurried steps. What momentarily halted those steps was an intense intuition strong enough to suppress the urgency. There doesn't seem to be anything unusual to the naked eye. But, there's definitely something. If I take a few more steps forward from here. You're Choi Siwoo, right? You're much smaller than I thought you'd be and you don't seem to have that goblin blood mixed in. Still, seeing you stop right at the edge, you seem to have some sense of danger. Anyway, nice to meet you. I'm Lim Jagwon. As a third-rank officer of the Sungsu Department, I've practiced reading scriptures and hand-to-hand combat for 15 years. Even if you say so, I don't really understand. Sungsu Department. I've heard that it's a group directly related to the continuation of the Yushin family's lineage, so is this Lim Jagwon guy a relative of Yushin? Or, since I've introduced myself, let's get straight to the point, you, just surrender. Don't make a big fuss out of it unnecessarily. You roughly understand the situation, don't you? The surroundings have already been surrounded by a barrier. By now, my colleagues have probably secured your mother. I don't know if you even have the concept of filial piety, but if you try to escape, your mother will be the only one suffering. Since all the shamans in the country are here to capture you, it's only a matter of time before you're caught. Fighting seems inevitable. But the problem is, It's like setting a trap. Once the prey steps in, it's definitely caught, but the problem is getting it to step in the first place. Obviously, you can't leave now, can you? Your options haven't changed. Choose one of the two, as I said earlier. Either surrender quietly, or, well, run until you're on the verge of death, looking pitiful. The next moment, a slight tremor is detected in his tense nerves. First, kneel. A short phrase, more than 100 meters away in a straight line, which is impossible to hear the voice itself. However, the formidable chi contained in that voice was so familiar to him. The boy immediately moved. That was clearly Sealwa's chi. Other yokais, at least Sealwa, is inside this barrier right now. I'm not entirely sure, but judging by the direction where I felt the chi, the location should be our house. If that's the case, what I need to do isn't rushing to my mom right now, it's actually moving away. Whether it's surrounded or secured by now, my mom definitely hasn't been captured yet. I don't know the exact situation, but Sealwa must be with my mom right now. Even if they suspect my mom, their first priority is me. If I can cause a disturbance as far away from our house as possible, that alone could buy Sealwa enough time to escape. Good response. He's fast and powerful. Superior in every aspect compared to Yushin. Yushin's consideration for me last time might have been one reason, but even considering that, there's a feeling that there's something more. Is that so? Yeah, this is unexpected. You've learned some martial arts in your own way. It wasn't a 1v1 match from the start. Even though I don't know the structure, just by feeling the energy, their side seems much larger. And that energy is being augmented by the male side. I know my words might sound strange in this situation, but I don't want to fight here. In the middle of this twilight in the apartment complex. Who knows how many people will get involved? What nonsense are you talking about? Do you think we struck this barrier just to confine you? Ordinary beings without energy can't even see inside the barrier, and if they come in, they'll just be confused. Everyone inside will be peacefully asleep. They'll only wake up long after the barrier is lifted, right? Well, it's certainly not a valid excuse. It's kind of amusing. I told you to surrender quietly. There was no need to make a fuss after all. Goblin Cyrium. Lightning stab. You've gotten the hang of it, right? I didn't slow the speed at the end to look down on you, it's because I don't want to kill someone with my own hands. I know this is not a fight that can end just because I say so, but I'm definitely warning you. I'll try my best, but I might lose control over my strength. There's no way. It's not only because he has good or solid tenacity, it's like I'm hitting against a giant wall. I thought she would help with an attack from both sides, but she is not moving even an inch throughout. Is her role not one that fights directly? But if that's not the case, the warning applies to you too. I don't want to engage in unnecessary fights, but if I have to, I won't hesitate. You, what are you doing? I told you. I'll take care of it by myself. You're just a mere concubine, what good can you do butting in? You just have to keep calling out in the back. Do you not understand what I'm saying? Or do you understand but ignore me just to provoke me? You should do what you are told to and keep calling out. A fight breaks out between the enemies. Saiwu doesn't understand why they are fighting, but he knows exactly what to do first. The one left unscathed and has stronger energy is definitely that one right there. I don't know what she's going to do, but I'll win over her as fast as possible, avoiding harm. 100 Ghosts. Evilization Uninvaded Beast. Royal Order Bow Shooting. 100 Ghosts, Overpowering. Evilization, Chase away evil beings. I used up 3 high-level amulets, but 100 Ghosts and Evilization didn't even work. Out of all, only Uninvaded Beast works. A monster that doesn't work against exorcism, huh? Uninvaded Beast, protect oneself from beasts. I can't say that works. Like the punch just now, it doesn't feel like I hit anything. It's not that I hit her and she got pushed back, she is the one that took a leap back. If what's covering her body is a method to block impacts, then there is bound to be limits on it. The sword-tipped blue edge is a sentence of condemnation. And the dew formed at dawn is the blood of sinners, so I ask you, God. Is the limit that it only lasts for a certain amount of time? Or is the limit on the ability to block a number of attacks or a certain level of impact? Or maybe it only blocks certain kinds of attacks? Please come down. There are 5 male shamans, not including me, that were dispatched here. 3 of them are capital shamans, 2 of them are regular shamans. The 5 of them form a 4-way surrounding the apartment complex. And originally, the boundary line is made by installing a pillar or amulet on the outside of the boundary line, but the boundary surrounding this place is special. The capital shamans act as a living axis personally. There's no need to explain it in a difficult way. It means that you have to knock them down to let go of the boundaries, right? It doesn't even have to be all of them, since usually boundaries will collapse if you remove even only half of the axis. It's not as simple as that. Fine. First of all, I understand that all of you are monsters with acknowledged skills. But no matter how strong you are, unless you're a 666-year-old monster, you don't have experience fighting a bullfight. Our strength is different from yours. Most of the martial arts and crafts we practice are made to catch monsters. If your fight is purely a power struggle between your people, fighting against a male shaman is like stepping on a custom-made trap for you. It's not about strength or superiority, but about compatibility. Also, I told you, right? There are 3 capital shamans being dispatched here right now. Capital shamans are a position that only a few exceptional male shamans can get. They are the only ones who can compete against a deity-level monster. Even so, since the fight is inevitable, what I would suggest is that you only deal with one person. Just like you said, you only need to knock down 2 to break the boundaries. I'll take on one, so you guys are going to aim for the other almost at the same time as me. We have to break the boundaries quickly before the other side notices, and we'll get out with your mother. Fortunately, I know the role and capabilities of each person, so, well, it's all good. Aren't you in a condition where you can't use your energy right now? I heard you sealed your spirits with your hands as proof earlier. I know that it can't be helped, but it's going to be hard to knock down at least 2 shamans in a place like this. Even if all of them are unconscious, if we want to make sure that no humans are caught up and hurt. The ones trying to protect ordinary people are them in the first place. They also wouldn't be able to fight because of the humans. We know they are obsessed with Saiwu more than you think. Even if there are casualties in this apartment, they'll find ways to cover it up somehow. What do you mean? What's the point of doing all that just to catch Saiwu? It's not because of Saiwu. It's because of pride, and the power we will gain in 6 months. For the past 666 years, you're not the only one who's been waiting for the monster's night. The shamans are waiting too. I don't understand. The last few hundred years were the best times for humans, right? Because they gained nights without monsters. Being free from the monsters, civilization advanced more in those years than in tens of thousands of years combined. It was literally the peak of humanity. To be exact, it was the peak of most of humanity. The shamans are living perfectly obscured under the shadow. It has been downgraded from a civilized master who defended humanity to an outdated and useless superstition. The inferiority complex, the sense of decency, the psychological compensation, it's a desirable mindset that most modern martial artists have. Maybe, in 6 months, when the sun sets, when people start screaming, that's when they will laugh. That's the moment that they will come back to being the ruler of the world, after being an outdated superstition. What happened today too, it didn't matter how many people died. I yelled at the government that it will be okay. It was not, and I lost my face. So, I'm just trying to catch the main culprit somehow, that way, sooner or later, they wouldn't have to question their ability and authority. But then, if that's so, then, well, the conclusion is that the people who lived here don't care if they get hurt or not, right? That's enough. What is this? Im Jagwon. This energy, no way, is the White House opened. But, how? There are 2 main categories of abilities that martial artists on the Korean peninsula use. The first is reading, memorizing the scriptures that contain divine power, drawing out the power in the words. As a result, the amplification of energy and various types of techniques tailored to the situation can be used immediately. Most martial artists use this ability. The second one is, the descent of the gods among the martial arts. The sensitivity of the white blood is said to have novelty in the case of those who are born with it. And they used white blood as a passage, and their own body as a vessel, a being outside this world. Advent, the sword dancer. It is possible to accept the heavenly God into the body. The overwhelming power of a deity that I face for the first time in my life. Something inside the boy's body reacted to the energy. Confronting entities and adversaries beyond the ordinary realm. Especially if it's one's first encounter, whether as a demon or a human, it's an utterly brutal experience where panic is not uncommon. Nevertheless, despite all that, what the boy chose was not retreat, but rather, an offensive. It doesn't have substance. Integration completed. Why is that? With that agility and speed, he could easily evade even the finest swordplay of sword dance mastery. Yet, to voluntarily assume a defensive stance and simply withstand attacks in place, claiming a disadvantage. Could it be? Is that Jae-kyung? Yes, General. If I may inquire. Why are you opposing this individual? He is a demon-blooded half-beast, stained with the blood of countless humans, disrupting the mortal realm. You dared to summon the general without proper protocol, you should choose your words carefully. Is this lad truly burdened with guilt, or are you twisting accusations against him? If you had any sense, you would have seen it yourself. Despite having a chance to avoid confrontation, he chose to retaliate. Perhaps they feared the repercussions it would have on the locals here. Even as their own lives are at stake, their focus and attention seem directed towards behind. Even if it were said that it flowed with the blood of ghosts, I do not believe it truly violated the law and harmed anyone. Perhaps it is a false accusation entangled with your understanding and needs. If they were mere rabble, I would never have responded to the summons. I apologize. Quite literally on the brink of death. The reason for Siwa's overall critical condition was not solely due to the wounds he has just sustained. It's these two opponents he fought successively that are more of an issue than the wounds themselves. For ordinary specters, the elixir itself is akin to a high-grade supplement. Excessive consumption would be mere extravagance without any potential for adverse effects. However, Siwa's constitution, which sensitively reacts to the elixir. Within a mere minute or so, from the 2 doses consecutively administered, his body squeezed out every ounce of vital energy. And the outcome is his current state. Ordinarily, the wound would have regenerated 2 or 3 times, but only an incomplete regeneration of just 1 arm. That was the extent of it. He still has vigor left. That's regrettable. I don't understand why, but even with just a complete body, you could have fled. Did I not tell you not to kill him? Very well. Ending his life is not something I'd readily do either. The activation method is reciting urgently as the law dictates, Sabaha. If done incorrectly, it might shatter. Then the concealed technique inside will trigger. The power of the tricolored gourd is not singular. Among the stored 81 mystical techniques, it selects and activates the most suitable one for the user's situation. However, at this moment, what the tricolored gourd chose after analyzing Siwa's current condition was not any mystical technique, but simply a supply of energy stored within itself. The tricolored gourd. It's not just any ordinary item. The quantity and quality of the energy sensed, a formidable martial artist would have spent at least years crafting such an item. But even if it's wielded by a yokai, what can be done? A rare sight indeed. Not only resistant to chi, but also a yokai had used it. This power, it's from the gourds Yushin provided, I get that. But what's with this sensation? It feels like a new energy bead has emerged inside my lower abdomen. Incorrect. There were originally 2 beads in Siwa's lower abdomen. They both, however, became inactive from never being used for 17 years. One of those energy beads, awakened a few days ago due to his recent awakening.